Have you seen DUNE? I haven't, but with a controller like this, EasySMX DUNE, I don't think I need to. This space-themed controller is truly a sight to behold. But is it all looks, or is it out of this world? Well, why don't we get into that? The DUNE comes in at a hefty price of $100 and is available in the color gold, which also comes with a matte black faceplate. With a price like this, I do expect the specs to reflect that. Speaking of, you get TMR sticks, a polling rate up to 8K, mechanical buttons, an LCD display for settings, a charging dock that is in a UFO style, dual trigger modes with analog and mechanical buttons, a 6-axis gyro, a turbo function, 4 programmable buttons, RGB lighting, a nice and big 1200 mAh battery, swappable sticks, D-pad, and as I said, faceplate. And all of that can be connected via 2.4 GHz, cable and Bluetooth for PC, Switch, and mobile devices. There's quite a bit here, but let's see if there's even more in the unboxing. Now let's get to the unboxing of the EasySMX DUNE. The box itself has a nice and simple front. You see what you get essentially. The sides are a blank yellow. The top has some little information. The bottom, gamer's choice. And the back has some of the specs. Now, getting inside, at first I thought it was one that you had to push sideways, but you actually have a magnet here, which opens it up nicely. Before we get to the contents, however, you have a nice little artwork here on top with some space theming, which, you know, the name DUNE, you know where it comes from. Then the first thing that stands out here is a manual, a good old map style manual. The main attraction, which I will get to in a second. Some foam. Additional sticks. I will talk about these sticks a bit later, once I get to my impressions. But that's that. An additional D-pad. The dongle. SMX branded, but not it has actually the model of the controller on here. Then, the dock, which I've seen it online. It has a a spaceship theme. It looks like a UFO, which I think is quite funny. Onto the controller, a nice cable with some quite strong plastic, it seems, and braided. It's not that flexible though, so it could use some loosening up, of course. Now let's see if there's anything beneath here. Yes, there is. It's an additional faceplate if you don't like the standard one. And then you have, of course, the main attraction, the controller. Before I pick the controller up, I first have seen something here which I like, which is a spot for the dongle. Let's see. It fits in perfectly and it's easy enough to remove. Pretty nice. And it seems a bit easy to knock over, I would say. Yeah, it's a bit easy to knock over, but it feels quite solid. It feels hefty, you know. Then the controller itself. Oh, this is weird. I mean, first of all, you have the sticks, which, if you have what was it called, trypophobia or whatever, with the holes, you might not like them. But that's not the weird part. The weird part is this railing here around the controller, because you really feel it dig in your hands. I'm not sure if I like that, especially this part here seems to be really nicely going into the folds of my hands. I'm not sure about these holes on the sticks. I might get used to them, but so far they feel really strange. This is a strange transition. I know it's like supposed to look like a comet or something, but I mean, the D-pad is I don't like this shape necessarily. There's a weird waviness, but it's a quite nice D-pad. Ooh, mechanical buttons that have almost no travel. There's still some travel to be had, but almost none. I think this is the first controller I reviewed with this little travel on the face buttons. Start and select feel good as well. I don't think it's charged right now. Yeah, it isn't. Then to the top, we have triggers. They feel a bit short, I would say. Like they could be half a centimeter further out or something like that. They feel, yeah, they do feel a little bit short. Then the bumpers, pretty standard, I would say. The macros, oh, I like them. I'm really a big fan of this positioning when controllers have them. I do prefer some buttons here rather than on the back. Speaking of, we do have 2 back buttons here. They feel the same. A connection switch. Oh, not the on and off switch, I see. Ooh. Ooh, okay. Yep. I just reviewed the Modron, which did the same thing. In the short mode, you have mechanical switches. Oh, and these feel almost better, I have to say. Yeah, no, these feel better. Big fan of that. Let's turn it on and see. Ooh. Now in the images, this lightning here looks way more pronounced. It looks like the entire thing is glowing. Here in person, I can very much tell where the LEDs are inside. It's a bit, shall I say, pathetic? Like on camera, it looks better. In person, you can actually really see the molding of the plastic inside and the location of the LEDs. I expect this to be stronger. Now let's see the menu. You have reconnecting. Press this for 3 seconds to menu. You have modes, config schemes, language, calibrate, screen, LED. So you have like... okay, we changed the color. Okay, they just started with a really bad color, I would say. The other ones look much nicer, especially like the darker ones, like blue and purple. LED mode. And a button tester. Oh, I see. Interesting. It's a bit slow. So yeah, my first impressions are interesting. I would say interesting. Triggers, big fan. Big fan of this. They're a bit short though. The face button's interesting. I wonder if I like them as much as I do now. Because I feel like the short travel distance could throw me off a little bit. And the sticks, oh, I really don't know if I will get used to these sticks. Something about these holes just is kind of strange. Yeah, this changes it a little bit. This is almost like a rubberized coating, which initially this feels really nice, but I wonder how long this will hold up, since usually rubberized coatings kind of decay after a couple of years. So I think I will probably stick with the glossier ones, which I do like the gold a little bit more. It kind of gives it a nice contrast. But yeah, those are my first impressions of the SMX DUNE. When it comes to the actuation force, you get 115 grams for A, 110 grams for B, and 125 grams for X and Y. Not the worst and within margin of error. Then we however get to the D-pad. Up comes in at 125 grams, left at 120 grams, right at 130, and down at a whopping 205 grams. That's quite an outlier there, and you can feel it. Moving on, we also get 190 grams for start and select, and 680 grams for L3 and 640 grams for R3. Then, the circularity of the sticks is quite good, as expected from TMR, with around 0.1% to 0.2% of error rate. You can also set the sticks to a more square gate and thus get a rate of around 9.1%, with a very good symmetry. When it comes to the pulling rate, I couldn't to 100% verify the 8K Hz claim, as the tester struggles beyond 4K, but seeing how overwhelmed the tester itself was, I do think that they're not lying about the 8K. On Bluetooth though, we see the common limit of about 125 Hz showing. Then we get to the macros. You have 4 buttons, which each seems to be able to handle about 30 inputs. These can be recorded from the menu and without pass-through, which is a shame, because with a PC software or app, you can at least adjust the timing of buttons, but with just the controller, you are reliant on trial and error. When playing them back though, they seem to replay quite accurately. When it comes to the consistency, then the macros are on point and will replay the same inputs correctly on multiple uses. In general usage, I do mostly like this controller. It fits well in my hands, The feel of the buttons is fantastic, and once again, I love these triggers. In my previous review, I wished more controllers would do this, and here we are. Also, I do like these pads here, as they do provide a very nice grip. Not all is good, however. I'm not the biggest fan of the sticks, and I'm not even talking about the holes, even if I think they could be a bit more shallow to make cleaning easier. What I'm talking about is the outside, which is like sandpaper to my thumbs. After a long session, I would have somewhat sore thumbs from the way it grinds on my skin. Then the other part that wasn't to my liking are the rails around the controller. While it is a visually interesting feature that I haven't seen before, they are quite noticeable with how they dig into my palm. This might be a problem with my meatier hands, but I do think they should make them a little bit less pointy as well. And now to the D-pad. It's not good. When I did the contra test, I got a result I've never seen before, with both D-pads, mind you. You'll see it in the footage, but not only would misinputs happen, but when they happen, they would quickly bounce back and forth, almost like the switch is pressed down just enough to quickly activate, but not enough to stay active. Thanks to the mechanical buttons, it is easier to avoid these wrong diagonals, but the way that they behave when they happen is slightly concerning. When it comes to the gyro, you get two modes. You can either use the native implementation or emulate one of the sticks. When it comes to the stick emulation, it works decently well, but I'm not a fan of the implementation. When the sticks are set to always active, then it will be mapped to up and down and tilting sideways. This feels quite awkward to control, and when you set it to only activate when you hold a button, it will be mapped to up and down and rotating left and right. I really don't understand why they would have mapped it differently this way. At the same time, the stick also wants to snap back to the center. This has the effect that slow movements get drowned out. This is, however, my main usage for emulating a stick, to get that extra bit of precision for, as an example, when I'm using a sniper. In the native mode, it works as expected though. There's a slight upwards drift on quick side to sides, but it's slow and within a margin of error. Lastly, I want to talk about the screen. This is an ongoing trend with controllers, and so far I haven't seen it used in a way that makes sense to me. The same can be said here, as it is only delegated to settings. You have mode for switching the input modes, calibrate to start calibration for the analog components, config scheme where you can remap most buttons, set the gyro mode, adjust the sticks, the vibration, the triggers and the polling rate. Then screen and LED, which speaks for itself, just like language, and button test. You also get some minor information at the top, and when not using the menu, you get a rendering of the controller itself. I don't get the point of the second one. I mean, I have the controller in my hands. I know what it looks like. I'd rather have a logo or something like the battery percentage here. Now, with all of that said, where does this leave me? The EasySMX DUNE is definitely in the premium price range, and I'm sure the design contributed to it as well. And while it has a lot of really good features one would expect, like TMR sticks, mechanical buttons, a screen, etc., it does also have some parts that fall flat, like the gyro stick mapping, the sandpaper sticks, the D-pad, and the guard rails. All in all, I wouldn't say though that this controller is more form over function, but I do think the form can make or break it a little for you. I would just barely give the DUNE an S- rating, and hope that EasySMX can improve some of the parts with a firmware upgrade. And I also do think that experimental designs like this are worth pursuing, but might need some more R&D before coming to market.